The views and opinions expressed in the following program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect those of KSMQ Public Service Media Incorporated or its assigns.
This week on Garden Connections, we're talking about different ways to use your herb garden. Is your green thumb ready? Stay with us. You're watching Garden Connections. Welcome to Garden Connections. I'm Amy Whitaker. Thank you for joining us. I'm happy to introduce Cindy Lippert and Chris Graff, and they are here to help us start a herb garden. We welcome your participation. Call in with your questions. So guys, previously we had talked about where to plant your herbs, how to plant your herbs. We touched a little bit on some uses, but I guess I have heard kind of herbs categorized as like culinary herbs or tea herbs or medicinal herbs. What can you guys tell me about the different ways we use our herbs?
Some of them are even multi-use herbs that you can use them in different areas. Where do we want to start?
Let's do medicinal, okay? A lot of the herbs, the reason I said that is because I was talking to you earlier about how I will tell people that I know if they have a cold or sinus problem or something like that, I'll say, go grab every green herb that you can think of, particularly the mints. Mints are really good, and pour them into a big pot of boiling water. And when they get boiling, turn it off so you don't burn yourself, and put a towel over your head. Stay away from it so you don't burn yourself, and inhale. And it clears the lungs, it clears the sinuses. It's just a wonderful, wonderful, the mints in particular, because they're pungent.
And you can go with the different scents on it too, because there's the chocolate mint and apple mint and peppermint and spearmint and all different scents that
Every
you can
year
go
there's
with.
more.
Yep.
It's amazing what they're doing with them. Yeah.
So, okay. And then
The
chamomile.
teas, yep.
Chamomile tea is one for upset stomachs. So you want to go with something like that. Yep. Mint is another one for upset stomachs.
Yep, yep. And something I haven't tried, but it's a root, is ginger root is supposed to be very good to
I have
chew
heard
on
about
for
that too.
if you're nauseous or have a stomach ache.
Yep.
But so there are a lot of them, and again, they do go across the board. I mean, if I don't have mint, I just grab anything green and just start chucking it in there.
Part of it too is you want to go out in your herb garden and smell the different smells in your herbs, because there's some that you're going to find more pleasurable than others. So if you're not feeling well and you get something that you don't normally like the smell of and you try to use that, it's not going to work.
Exactly.
I'm one where lavender does
yeah,
not relax me. Normally lavender is a relaxing scent. It annoys me. So that's one I'm not going to use.
Annoyed. Yes. But we use them when we do packs, hot packs for massage and stuff like that. We'll put them into the hot packs and heat them. And a lot of people find it very, but see, now if I knew that with you, there's no way that I'd give you a hot pack with lavender in it.
Throw the rosemary in there.
Okay,
I like that one.
rosemary will work. We'll do that one. Okay.
Any other medicinal type things that you can think of?
There's so many. Echinacea is one, and that's one
one.
that's pretty in the herb garden then too, because you've got the pretty flowers, but it's also a medicinal herb.
So echinacea, for those who don't know the scientific name of it, what might they know it more as?
Purple coneflower.
Coneflower, yeah. And they're pretty. They're
Yes.
big purple daisies.
Do you know how to use that one as the herb then? For
The echinacea,
for the
no.
cold? Okay, we'll have to do some research on that one.
Yeah, I think I've heard of like echinacea tea, but I wouldn't even know how to put it in a tea. But you can buy so many herbal teas in the store. When you're buying those herbal teas, how would you go about making one of those for yourself if you wanted to make herbal tea instead of buying it?
Well, and I know echinacea they sell in a capsule form at the health food stores, and that's supposed to be an immune system builder. I don't know how you put it together. I'm not that fancy with it.
I'm going to
but-
look up echinacea in my
All right,
cheat
there you
sheet
go.
book. If it's in here. Yes, it is. Okay, you guys talk about something else.
Oh, what should we
Okay,
talk about?
Cindy's so you can make an herbal tea at home. How would you go about putting your herbs into water and making yourself an herbal tea?
Steeping it until it, just boil. I wouldn't do a rolling boil kind of thing, but I would keep it at a soft boil. And I like my tea stronger, so
Okay.
I would not put as much water in, as maybe somebody else would. But you can start it fairly concentrated, and you can add more water until you get it to a flavor that you like.
And what kind of herbs would we put into our teas?
The mints specifically, and the flowers of the chamomile.
Okay.
This is one that you would let go to the flowering, the little tiny white flowers with the yellow centers, tiny little daisy looking things, and those are what you would use in there.
Instead of the leaves.
Yeah. I'm just a huge fan of blending anything together that smells good. So as a purist, I'm not really good.
But
The leaves off from the lemon verbena is good in the teas.
In the teas, yeah.
so when we're talking teas, if we're using green plants, I would assume our tea isn't going to turn brown like the tea that you buy at the store. So what kind of coloring can we expect if we're trying to make
It's
a
going to
tea?
be pale.
Yeah,
Pale
yeah.
yellow.
Yellow greenish kind
Okay.
of color. Like green tea. Green tea is really, popular right now. And that's essentially what you're talking about.
Okay.
So
So we've got kind of our tea herbs. Did you find something
The
on
echinacea looks like we're using the roots.
Okay.
So,
interesting.
cold, flu, allergies, fevers,
Externally for wounds,
and
as a
gargle for sore throat.
gargle for sore throat.
So that's one thing
whole
too
immune
is, if you're
system
doing
thing.
your herbs, get an herb book and look it up and, okay, I've got this, what can I do with it, Take a
Okay.
look.
And I suppose with coneflower, using the herbs, not such a big deal because it readily spreads for the most part.
Right.
So,
Drop seed and come up all over. So
all right. So there are some things that you're going to have to actually dig up and use roots for. We have now found out.
irises are another one that you use the roots. I'm not sure right now what that one's used for, but I know iris roots is one.
Yeah, I've just known that the ginger root for sure is one that
Right,
I've heard
ginger's
of.
a
You
biggie, yeah.
just suck on or chew on a chunk of ginger root. Can definitely do that. So we've kind of talked medicine, tea, and I know we'll kind of go back and forth between those.
Maybe not an herb, but aloe vera too. As a wound kind of thing.
Okay, just another plant,
Yeah.
medicinal type plant. So moving on into maybe more of the culinary type herbs, or the ones we are going to use for cooking or baking. What do we have in that category?
Your basic ones, your parsley, sage, rosemary,
And
and thyme. And then you got to have your basil in there.
Yes.
Doing so many different things with those. The basil salad, you can throw it in salads and use it in some of your, anything with tomatoes. Putting some basil in with your tomato sauces, that just brightens it up, perks it right up.
Cindy uses a lot of fresh herbs in
Okay.
hers. I tend to be more of I spend a lot of time drying mine. So that's kind of neat because you get kind of both sides of that, of how you use it in cooking. The fresh are a lot more pungent
Right.
than the dried, so you don't want to use
If you're reading
much.
a recipe and it says use 1 teaspoon of dried, you're not going to use a teaspoon of crushed because it will be quite strong.
Yeah.
So, but what you do is, when you're cooking anyway, you should be tasting. You taste as you cook, and start with a little bit, and you can always add more. But if you add a lot, you can't take it out. So you just want to be careful with that. But basil with any of the tomatoes, sage, that's fun with a lot of different meats.
I've heard a lot of like sage turkey, or you
Right.
put sage in your stuffing.
Yep.
Rosemary is a good one also with meats.
Rosemary is a real big one with lamb. Rosemary lamb is
Okay.
very good.
I love the smell of that one. You smell
Yes.
that.
Oh yeah.
And that's what you want to
so
be doing too. You
wonderful.
want to be smelling because
Smelling,
that
yep.
smell sometimes, that would be good with this. And
That's totally how I cook. That's
Yes.
completely how I cook. My family tells people this is their favorite story. Okay, if you come to our house and you have something you really hate, don't worry because you'll never have it again. But if you have something you really like, too bad because you'll never have it again. Because everything I do is based on smell and taste. It's not.
So whatever mood you're in, whatever
Right.
taste you're feeling like having for the day, you can get to it with your herbs.
Yes.
Another really good one, fresh herbs, are the chives. You've got the regular chives, you've got the garlic chives, and anything that you would use onion with, the chives is going to have that mild onion flavor. So if you've got somebody that really doesn't like onion, but you want to add a little something, you can do the chives. Just chop the green up there and mix it in with whatever you're doing
And the
with
green
onion.
adds a little bit of color and makes things pretty too.
Yes, yes.
Yes.
I know I like to put radishes in my potato salad, but I have to peel them first, otherwise my husband, or scratch
Right.
the red off, otherwise he knows they're there.
Yeah.
Or use white ones. That works.
Dill's another one that's fun to use for the pickles. We were talking about the pickles here a little bit earlier, using the leaves, or the dill pickles using the seed head with that, but also fish, the fish sauces, using the dill with
And
that.
Garlic bread. I always sprinkle dill on my garlic bread.
Okay.
It's just wonderful.
And you can grow fennel, which looks very similar to the chives. And you can do that with the fish also, I noticed.
That's more of a licoricey type of taste.
Yeah,
isn't
it's
it?
going to be a little
mild, but
different. Yeah, it's
good.
going to be different,
It's good.
something
Yeah.
different.
Kind of like the anise, is that how you say
Anise.
it?
Yeah.
Seed.
Yep.
That's really licoricey too.
Oregano is another herb that's wonderful fresh, and there's different. I've got one now, it's called hot and spicy oregano. And it has a little more of a bite than the regular. Anything Italian, any Italian food, any pastas that you're doing, the eggplant parmesan, using the oregano, little bit in there. See how you like it. If you like it, you can always add a little bit more. Thyme.
It just adds something that you just can't describe. I mean, you can take the plainest thing that you have to have every day of the week, throw a little bit of this in, and people will go, what is that? What is that? I make homemade chicken noodle soup, and I use my lemon blend that I make in it, and people are like,
It's
it
different.
tastes like there's lemon in there, and it's just wonderful. But I mean, my rule of thumb and especially with my dried herbs, is if I'm cooking something, I put my nose over the pot and I smell it, and then I go over and crunch up some herbs and go, is this the smell taste that I want to go in there? And that's totally, you don't have to be learned on this stuff. Smell it. If it smells like it would taste good in spaghetti sauce, throw it in the spaghetti sauce.
A lot of the old
Honestly.
cooks, the recipes were not written down.
No.
It was different each time, which there's some recipes that, Dad loved this thing that Grandma made, but Grandma never wrote it down.
Yep. Yep. My grandma used to go like this. She didn't want you to see. What are you putting in there? So,
That's
But,
funny.
yeah, I mean, like I said, I'm a huge fan of the lemon blends, and I have people that I've given them to over the winter. I save the baby food jars and fill them, and they're coming back saying, more please, it's gone. And my lemon blend is in a container this big, and by the end of winter, it's gone.
So if you don't mind sharing your secret recipe, what might you put in your lemon
My lemon
blend?
blend? I go and find anything that says lemon on it. That's how
So we got the lemon verbena.
lemon verbena,
Was there a lemon balm?
lemon basil, lots of lemon basil, lemongrass. That's also used for
Okay.
teas. That's another one.
Lemon thyme.
Lemon thyme, yes.
There's the lemon balm.
There's pinch
Smell
that
it.
one and smell it.
Woo,
They're
yeah.
just incredible. And I grow all of those, and I just cut them, and I dry them on my racks, or I hang them upside down, or if you have a dehydrator, you can put it in your dehydrator. And when they're dry, I put them in my food processor and just grind it all together and start smelling it. And if I need more of, I smell till it smells good to me.
Okay.
But honestly, what I do is go buy anything that has lemon on it and grow it.
What about for like spaghetti sauce? I mean, spaghetti sauce is basically tomato sauce with a bunch of herbs, correct?
right.
Yep.
So what kinds of herbs would we put into spaghetti sauce?
You can do your basil. You can do your oregano.
Oregano. I use
what
the
else?
lemon blend. I'm sorry, I don't mean to push that, but it's you know, if you talk to people, that it really is.
It probably just adds a little
It's where people
different
go.
taste.
This
What
is
is
spaghetti sauce. What is that? You
Yeah.
know, and it's just
Yeah. Your onions, your garlics, you're going to be using those, so you can hit it with the chives.
parsley.
Parsley,
Parsley's
definitely.
good in there.
What
Yep.
else?
That's
You can throw some cilantro in there. That would be good too.
Certainly can. Yes. This has a nice peppery taste. The nasturtium. Chop a little of that in there.
with that. You would use the leaves
Could use either one.
or the flower.
Yeah. either
Okay.
one. Yeah.
How about for those of us that like to make fresh salsa? What is the key herb for that?
Cilantro.
Yes. And I have the seed package.
Yep. Cilantro, coriander, they're actually the same thing. So you plant a coriander seed, you get cilantro, the greens, and then when that goes to seed, you've got the coriander seed again.
What would you use the coriander seed for?
My grandma used to use it in baking. She would make like custards and put coriander seed in it. And I remember that as such a distinct taste. It was only a year or so ago that I found out it was the seed from the cilantro. I didn't know that. But I remember the taste of the coriander in her pudding kind of things that she made. Like the egg, you know, the
custard.
The egg custard kind of thing. Yeah.
Can you describe the taste? I'm curious. I want to know what coriander tastes
We're going to
like.
pop one of those seeds out there and
Yeah,
crunch
just
on it.
Chew on it.
I think that is, in some Indian restaurants, there's a coriander seed that you chew.
Okay.
And it refreshes
Cleanse
your
the
mouth.
palate. I have
Something-
heard of that before, using coriander to cleanse the palate.
I
as
don't know
well.
if I couldn't describe it like anything else that I've had. It's its own thing.
Okay.
It's absolutely its own thing.
What else could you use some of these herbs that we've got up here for?
I would think that the nasturtium would be really good in the salsa too because it's got the pepper flavor. to
Okay.
it. And the flowers would add color,
color.
to the whole thing. And your
Your-
chives
your
and your
onions.
Yep. A lot of people put a little oregano in their salsa.
You can do salsa with just about anything, so it depends on, are you doing a tomato-based one or are you doing a fruit-based one? You can do ones with peaches and things like that, so those are very
I've heard
good
of
too.
the fruit salsas as well.
And the chutneys and that kind of thing. Yeah.
You can put regular parsley in your salsa also.
My family happens to really big, not this family with my husband, but my family I grew up with. We lived in Europe for a while, and lamb is a really big thing in our family. We have lamb at Easter time rather than ham or something like that. And the rosemary, sage, oregano, thyme, I make little baggies of that crunched up and processed, and I give it to my family, and they use that as a rub for the lamb.
Okay.
And that's also very good on roasts or things like that. Pork, it's very good on. The rosemary is a little bit tricky because it's harder.
Right.
It kind of sits there sort of hard, so you might pull a little bit. But the flavor, that's something that it's almost nicer not to break apart, to just lay a sprig of it over the top, because then you can just take the top off, take it off, and you don't have those little spiky things.
You'll see
sitting there.
sometimes where they'll do that. They'll cut this off and they'll just, when they're cooking, just dragging it across the roast rather than
Okay.
putting the whole thing
Or,
in there.
or in the gravy type of thing and pulling it out.
Pull it out kind of
And
like
then-
bay leaves.
Yeah.
Another thing that, you can take cheesecloth and you can put those herbs in there so that you're not getting
Okay.
some of like the bay leaf where has the little spines that get stuck, and you get the little piece here that can sometimes get in the way. So if you've got it in a little bag,
My
and then
son
you can take
Nathan
it
has
all out.
accused me for years of trying to kill him because every time I cook, he gets the bay leaf. And he's like, "You're at it again. You're trying to get me."
Yeah, I know lately I've been discovered, new potatoes are the little red potatoes. And I just go through my cupboard. I'm like, that smells good. I put a little bit of olive oil in there and just start dumping in the
Dumping it
herbs.
in.
Stir it up, smell it. And once it smells about right, I throw them in the oven and roast them for about an hour and pull them out. And man, are they good.
You get that
My
scent
husband
through the
even
whole
likes
house.
them.
And the other thing about herbs is you may take something and it may be completely wrong. Okay, it may just, after you've cooked it, usually if you use your nose, it isn't, but you may stick your rosemary in your custard pudding or something. What you're gonna do is you're gonna run one recipe and say, ugh, and you'll just never, then you start to know where they go with the vegetables or the meats or the fruits or that kind of thing.
The sweets or the savories.
Yeah, yeah.
Could you arrange them in your garden like that, the sweets versus the savories, if it helped you keep it?
Some plants are taller than others, so you want
Okay.
them toward the back of your garden, and some are creepy crawlies, you want them toward the front. So sometimes it gets a little hard to sort them out that way.
Yeah, but your nose it'll take you the right way. It really, you know, or just crushing it and, you know, tasting it.
Have either of you, go ahead.
No, I was going to say I was really fascinated with the pansy stuff. I had seen or read a book one time about somebody who sugared pansies and put it on top of the cake and stuff, but that's not anything I've ever used in cooking before. But it will be.
They're good on salads. Just taking those blossoms and putting them on your salad. It tastes like lettuce. It's, you know, a very nice flavor. It's
pretty,
like the nasturtiums are the peppery. Well, this is more of the, I guess, next to the nasturtiums, bland.
Yeah.
So it tastes like a lettuce salad. So, but it's so pretty in that salad.
Think about the purple or the colored pansies or the red and orange flowers. Or how pretty that, you know, when you cut up a red or orange or yellow pepper and put it in what it does. Now sprinkle some flowers on the top. I mean, how much prettier can that be?
You can even use daylily flower, or daylily petals are edible.
They are.
Well, the
They
squash
are.
blossoms, yeah.
Yep.
That I knew, but I didn't know daylilies.
Yep, daylily petals are edible. Some are a little sweeter, some are more peppery. Usually the stronger flavor is on the
that's so
yellows, but you know, bland to peppery to sweet depending on what kind you have.
We used to have something else, a wonderful elderly lady that used to come into one of our fields in the spring, and she'd be out there, and we were like, what is she doing? She was picking the little dandelions before they flowered. She called it her spring tonic. She said, this is what keeps my family healthy all year, and they would eat them like mustard greens or you know, turnip greens or something like
Dandelion greens, yep.
that. Yeah.
Have either of you done much work with garlic? Like, how do you...
You can put garlic in anything.
Garlic is my middle name. It's awful.
But how do you preserve that? I know you can buy it in the store chopped up in little jars. You can buy it in garlic powder. What have you found is the best way to preserve
I used to grow garlic
that?
and I would
Braid
it and dry it, but I use such huge quantities of garlic that I actually buy them at Sam's Club. Like I do. I mean, I use massive quantities of garlic.
Okay.
So for me, I would have had to make my whole garden garlic, so I don't do that anymore. But
yeah, you grow your garlic in the garden and then pull them kind of like your onions, and you just braid the tops and hang it so that they can dry, and then you can just pull that bulb off as you need it.
So it's not a real moist ball. It's similar to an onion. They
Like
just
an
kind
onion.
of...
skin on it,
Yeah.
like you know. Yeah, and I remember my dad teaching me if you take the clove and put a flat knife on it and whack it down, the whole thing, all the hard stuff just falls away and you're left with the
You don't have to peel it. It's already
really
done.
nice.
So to touch back on our preserving. So when we are going to cut these things for drying, is there any particular time to cut certain herbs?
A lot of the leafy ones, you want to cut them before they bloom. The blossom doesn't do anything for you, so you can be pinching the blossom off before it blooms, and when it's tall enough for you, you know, go ahead and cut your herbs. But the basils, the parsleys, a lot of the leafy ones you want to get before they bloom.
So anything that we're using the leaves on, we pretty much probably want to be harvesting throughout the whole season to keep the plant to a good size and keep the plant bushing out and regenerating.
You'll walk out there and you'll see the parsley is like this. It just asks you to grab a hold of it and cut it. You can just see it's not like that anymore.
And
Or
then
the
it keeps
basil,
growing.
and it comes back again. It's just like you can just see it. It just needs it.
Chives is another one.
Yeah,
It gets
you can
that,
just
and
see
you
it.
can just go
Yeah.
out there and cut it off, and it'll keep coming.
Yep.
So just kind of watch them. And then there are certain things that we want to take the flowers off of. So as soon as you walk out there and see it flowering, you would do what?
The chamomile.
How much do you want to take off? Do you want to pick like flower by flower? Can you just kind of trim?
Actually, I would take it down a little bit because you've got and that will encourage this to, you know, to spread and get some more flowers out. You're actually going to just pop the flowers off of those things that you take off, but
Okay.
I cut it down a little bit.
Cut it down.
Yeah, but you're not like you're doing these guys. These guys you can take down so that you just have a couple little leaves here and they'll come back like crazy.
And the majority of them we're using are going to be leafy.
Leaf, I think.
Leafy,
Yeah.
so you can-
The nasturtiums.
That one you can just take the flowers off on that one. The pansies,
You can
do
eat
the
both
flower.
the leaves and the
Yep.
and the flowers, but they're just so pretty when they're flowering.
The cilantro, you can be cutting that, and then it gets to a certain point where it's like, okay, there's not much green on it anymore. Let it go to seed, then you've got your coriander.
Yeah,
So that
they
one will
really
kind of
tell you if
fizzle
you-
out.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
It gets where you just kind of have
Leggy.
the stem left, you know.
Okay, so you
kind of
just let it seed and then you can collect the coriander.
Mm-hmm.
Are there any
But
other?
you know, a couple of these, like the dill, is really nice because there have been times. This is the way I like to use the dill when it's. So this is the way I dry it. Now this I wouldn't strip ahead of time because that's all going to fall through my screens. I lay
Okay.
the whole, you know, stem out.
stem out.
But the thing is, if I'm gone and it doesn't work out and I don't get out there, I can still use the seeds. So I haven't lost the plant, even though I may not be getting the part that I was looking for. I can still use the seeds. Same with the cilantro.
So when we're talking about harvesting, it's more or less just watching the plant, knowing what part of the plant you want to use,
Yep.
and then harvesting when that part is ready, and then you can go and use it fresh, or you can dry it, you can freeze it,
Yep.
but just kind of knowing your herbs and knowing what you want to do with them.
And I think for me with drying, the other big thing about drying the herbs is when you go to use them, I like them in wide mouth jars because you'll put some in your hand, and before I put it in the recipe, I will take it and crunch it like this and then sprinkle it around. Okay, because
All right.
it brings out the flavors and
Well,
stuff.
sorry to interrupt you, but we are once again
Oh,
out of time.
no.
And for more information, log on to ksmq.org and click on Garden Connections. You can catch past episodes, join the blogs, and tell us about your garden experiences. Now that you're ready to grow your own herbs, tune in next week when we'll talk about more ideas for your garden. I'm Amy Whitaker. See you next week.